Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to Real Talk with Real Fit Pros. It's your favorite friendly neighborhood fitness ninja, Mark Zalmanoff. I got my buddy Jonathan with me and a special guest. We are live in studio. I love these studio interviews.
Yeah.
They're so fun.
Oh, it's just way better experience, man.
Yeah.
It's awesome.
But before we dive in, a little ask of you guys. Please go do all the things. That means like, subscribe, share with your friends, leave a review, take a screenshot. Put it on the Instagram, Fit Pro Bros. What a great name.
Yeah.
What a great name.
This is a genius idea you had. That's all you, buddy.
Such shenanigans. Anyway, so we have a special guest. We have actually somebody who's been in the industry longer than me, and I've been in 19 years, so that's pretty impressive. It's actually really impressive to find anybody who's been in any industry this long. So I'm excited to hear more about you and your story. But first, my buddy Jonathan Loudermilk. How you doing, sir?
I'm doing fantastic, baby. Good to be here.
It's great.
It's
a great
great.
Day.
It's great. Well, as I introduce my guest here, I'm not going to lie, I'm a little biased because this is actually one of my personal mentors. So I'm going to have a little heart-to-heart with you here, sir. Barry Smith here, who we have with us, has been in the industry for 22 years. He's literally laid the foundation for a lot of the processes that you would not realize in some companies such as known as 24-Hour Fitness, Fitness Connection, Texas Family Fitness, UFC. I'm probably leaving off probably 5 or 6 more companies within there that I'm sure Barry can elaborate on. But I had the pleasure of working with Barry. He is honestly one of the best people I've ever met in my life. He has forgotten more than I could ever possibly learn. And simply being around him has made me a better fitness professional and, more importantly, a better human being. Barry Smith, welcome to the show, man.
Well, thank you very much.
Yeah, man. Dude, you've had a huge impact on my career, so not to get too emotional, you can try to hold tears back. And you guys know Barry's not exactly the most emotional type of person putting that stuff out there, so I like to fuck with him a little bit.
Yeah. So by the red face.
So, Barry, when we kick off the show, we like to kick it off with a story, right? So we kind of prepped you on, a fun story to share. And so I'm going to kick it off to you, man. And what's a fun story you can share with us from your experience, what you've gone through?
Yeah. So, I'll just go with a story that Jonathan likes.
I love this story.
So, when I do new hire trainings and things like that, I always, like to use some kind of an icebreaker. Usually a fun fact, something that you normally wouldn't know about that individual, something that's, just kind of off the cuff and different and something that they've experienced in their life. And so oftentimes I lead with, my own, being that I played a small role in the movie Varsity Blues as special abilities extra. So what that
That sounds like a great title.
Yeah. So what that means is, me along with a bunch of my ex-college buddies, down in South Texas, were selected to be the football players, for that movie. So all the live action scenes of where we're, tackling and, running into each other and stuff. That's all, those are all real ex-college, ball players, trying to take each other's heads off. It was interesting because our compensation structure was we got paid $150 a day plus $100 for bonuses, and bonuses meant big hits. on the
Oh, God.
So there were people that were, we sent, numerous people to the hospital. There were several concussions. A bunch of people got knocked out. It was war, out there on the field. So it was a lot of fun. Like I said, there was a lot of injuries, but some interesting memories that go along with that. So
I love that there was a bounty.
Right.
That's because I grew up watching that. So if you're a youngster watching this, go Google Varsity Blues and find that VHS, because that's probably the only version you're gonna find it right now. But to know that there was a hit, like a bounty for all those hits going on in the background, that's hilarious.
Buddy Ryan was the associate producer there. Yeah.
I figured that's how you motivate us, to make it real as possible, is go out there and try to take each other's heads off.
Well, that's what makes it authentic, man.
We certainly did our best to try.
Right.
Yeah. And the interesting part is, they would stage these, certain plays where, you'd literally run them like 12 or 15 times in a row. So you'd get matched up with somebody that was, 250-pound monster coming the other direction. You got to go head to head with them, 12 or 15 times coming at 40 yards in a dead sprint. It's it'll do some damage, to you for sure. But it was a lot of fun.
Yeah, well, it's just what a cool opportunity. Like, you don't meet too many people. It's like, oh yeah, I was in a movie, and yeah, I got to hit people, and it was super fun. It was awesome.
Yeah, and it was all done overnight. So, Texas high school football games are all night games, right? Yeah. So we'd show up at, 7:30, 8 o'clock to get, our free meal, and then we'd go to work.
That's how they got you with the food.
6:30 in the morning, and it was, it was rough. I think we did it for about 8 weeks. So, but a lot of, again, it was a good, chance to reunite with a bunch of my college buddies and, and have some fun. So
that's awesome, man. So, so y'all listen to this, I met Barry working at Texas Family Fitness as one of their fitness managers. This is probably like 3+ years ago. And Barry waits like 2 months before he shares his damn story with us, which like afterward, like me and the whole team were like I actually went and watched the movie again, trying to find you in there. I'm trying to see like, where's Barry? Like, I want to see what he looks like.
Well, the worst part about that is, so I actually had a cameo. There was a cameo scene with Barry Switzer was one of the opposing, coaches, and he was going to be in there, and I was, kind of his liaison. So I was like standing next to him during all of his, just lines and whatever. So I had, helmet off, and at that time I had hair down to my shoulders, if you could believe that.
Right.
Now, but that would have been my 5 minutes of actual fame, and that whole thing got cut out of the movie. So when I went to the movie, I was like, "What?" I was like, "My scene is gone," So yeah, I'd have to pretty much point you out to where I was making tackles or running.
Well, it's fortunate for us, man. You could have gotten super famous and wouldn't have been able to do everything you've done in the fitness industry.
I don't think that was going to happen.
Well, so let's go ahead and let's dive into it. So obviously you're the vice president of Fitness Connection. We're going to talk to that, but I'd like to rewind time to where's Barry when he first started, which I believe you actually started your stint as a trainer at Fitness Connection, correct? So if you want to kind of like share like where you started and that path to get you going in your career.
Yeah. So oddly enough, shortly after we filmed that movie, I had was finishing up college and really the only other job that I could get during that time was a bouncer at a nightclub. What else are you gonna do with a big, burly, scary ex-college linebacker? That with no interpersonal skills. So
know your strengths. Know your strengths, people.
I was a bouncer.
The natural choice was to go bounce in nightclubs. Well, after months and months of that, I got pretty sick of that nonsense. Really fast. Too many fist fights, too many drunks puking on you, and all the rest of it. And a roommate of mine came home one afternoon and was like, "Hey, I got this job at this new club in Austin, Texas. Fitness Connection. I'm going to be a personal trainer." I'm like, he's like, "Well, you can make your own schedule, and you can make like $16 an hour, and it's going to be really cool." And I was like, "Well, I'll go throw my hat in the ring and see what I can." No certification, no experience.
We just need warm bodies.
My interview was literally, you walk in, well, you certainly, look like you know what you're doing. So, we'll go ahead and get you started. And the next day I got a shirt and, was handed a clipboard and got told to go find, the name of, 10 or 12 people that were interested in personal. So that lasted for about a week, and I was like, man, I hate this job. I'm getting paid minimum wage. I'm being told to go talk to strangers. I don't like this. It's not fun. I think just by a miracle, I got enough clients, that they'd sold at point of sale that just kind of got me over the hump, and I didn't really have anything else to do. And again, I was really focused on finishing school and going being a football coach was what it was that I wanted to do. And in that time, I got one of the owners of the company was formerly associated with 24 Hour Fitness, and they had gone through this acquisition of this company called Apex, which provided trainers with supplements and nutrition and all this stuff. And so that relationship led them to introduce that program at Fitness Connection. And and keep in mind, this is 1999, 2000, the height of all protein, no carbs, everything's bodybuilder-esque. There was really no applied sciences anywhere in the profession of training. It was basically, you're going to work out like I work out, and you're going to eat what I tell you to eat, even though I don't eat that way. I'm going to walk. I'm going to walk to the break room with sacks of Whataburger and stuff, and I'm going to tell you have to eat chicken and broccoli 6 times a day, and that's how you get results. So so I was already kind of in my own corner at the gym. I didn't buy into all the stuff that other people were doing, and just wasn't aligned with their thoughts and their philosophy. And then I got told that they're going to bring in this program that was designed by this ex-bodybuilder, Neil Spruce, that was going to give us nutrition programs and workouts and stuff for our clients. So my eye roll as big as you could get. Like, I was like, oh my God, it's just going to pound more of this back into the clubs. Well, it turned out to be something completely different. It was something that was rooted in science. It was something that was preaching balanced approach to nutrition, proper progressions with exercise. And back in the day, to go and get certified through Apex, it was a 5-day certification course. So it wasn't like this a 2 or 3 hour online just introduce you to the program. It was very extensive. There were multiple educators that came in, and I know I got really connected by that, and I was very bought into what it was that they were presenting as far as a message and just the proper approach to working with a client and using a comprehensive, progressive, application of, using nutrition, proper supplementation, proper application of exercise and cardio, and managing those things. And it gave you, for the first time, tools and resources that allowed you to do that. And so I immediately, I was probably the only person in the room of 40 trainers that bought into this program. But I immediately embraced it, and I started applying it in my business. And while I was a moderately successful trainer, I went to blow it out of the water successful trainer, over the course of the next several months, where I want to say that my first years, working as a trainer, I made like $19,000, right? Working very part-time, just intermittently with clients. My second year as a personal trainer, I made $95,000.
Wow.
Yeah. In 2000.
Yeah.
So, and I got to that point because, I started, I was getting results with my clients, and my clients were referring me with people, and I started charging my own rates, and I started having waiting lists, for people that were coming to, see, they were wanting sessions with me. So, the owners of the business, obviously
took notice. Like, why are we paying this guy $95,000?
Right. They took notice of the success that I was having, and obviously there was sales, that were going along with that. That were far exceeding, those numbers that I was making. And of course, they wanted to see if I could replicate that. So at the time, they were expanding the company, and they'd bought some additional clubs down in San Antonio, and they'd asked me to move down there and take over as fitness manager of one of the clubs. And I took that opportunity initially, but the fitness manager, the way that the compensation structure was, it was a significant pay cut for me. And so I came back to the owners. I'm like, look, I can make 3 times this, as a trainer. I already was making 3 times this. What in the world am I doing this for? Mm-hmm. And they came back and said, well, why don't we just go ahead and give you the whole program? Because I was already having success, in developing a culture in that club and around the Apex program, and experiencing, that multi-layered success among those trainers. And so, they came back and said, we'll let you be the, director of fitness. And so I took over as director of fitness.
Little leapfrog move right there.
For the company, I was their first multi-unit, manager outside of their owners. And, from there took over the program. And, over the course of the next several years, we were doing things that was gaining us national attention as far as our sales and our productivity and stuff. We were first clubs that were ringing up like $100,000+ in PT sales, and it was enough to get, we were getting enough attention that Neil Spruce, wanted to kind of figure out what's going on in these little, these small little number of clubs down in San Antonio and Austin and Texas. And so he came down and spent 4 or 5 days with us. And in that, I found just kind of a kindred soul, somebody that I could really, attach myself to and learn a lot from. And he became a major influence in my life. And just kind of as a byproduct, of those conversations, Neil happened to also at the time, he was the owner of NASM. And so he just made a recommendation that we bring NASM in to come do a live certification course. And at the time, NASM had no brand name whatsoever. It was pre, Mike Clark.
Versus the Titan it is now.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
And so, you appease him really, just agreed to it and then got the whole thing set up. And a couple months later, they showed up and they started, this new kid at the time. I think he was 20-something years old. Mike Clark had joined their team, and he'd kind of reorganized their whole, thought process and approach, and was in the process of developing the optimum performance training model. And we happened to get the first live version of that course that was ever taught to any, health club group. In fact, it was pre-textbook. They hadn't even completed the textbook at the time. Yeah. So they showed up with this trunk full of equipment. Like they had these foam rollers and these big old physio balls and med balls and a variety of different things that none of us had, balance boards and things that we'd never even seen before or heard of, right? Because we were all traditional lifters, it was machines and free weights.
Right.
That was it. So we had no concept of functional training or any of those things. So, you've got all these meatheads that are on the floor, doing bridges and stuff and screaming about their hamstrings locking up and we were just, balance and posture. We were all just a train wreck, right? I mean, none of us could squat, and maintain our own body weight. Yet we're trying to get under, 600 pounds on the squat.
Yeah.
Rack and, everything else. So it was just, and at the time I was also, I was 24, 25 years old at the time. And my body was so riddled with injuries due to, just bad training techniques and compounded by football, that, I had trouble even jogging, without, any pain. So, from a personal vantage point, I got really interested because I wanted to fix, some of these problems that I was having. And then in addition to it, opened up all these different tools and resources.
Whole new world.
God, I mean, it was just like, and then when we started engaging with NASM, we were the very early adopters there. And then we comboed that with, what we were doing with
the nutrition.
Yeah, with Apex. I mean, we were just, our program just exploded.
Yeah, it's funny you bring up the corrective. Like, I remember when I was a subcontracted trainer at a Gold's Gym in North Carolina, and the first time I saw a BOSU, I was like, what the fuck is that?
Yep.
And I remember it was prime time. I was in between clients and, I wasn't being productive. I was like, I'm just going to dick around. I got on the BOSU and I tried to do some squats and I fell in front of everyone in front of the cardio line. And I had my trainer shirt on and I got up and I'm like trying to play it off. And, that started my obsession with like, I'm going to get that down. So that was my aha moment with like the first time. So I could imagine if you had a room full of bodybuilders going through this.
Well, and it was a hard turn too. So it wasn't like everybody immediately, embraced that, right? Because you still had the hardcore guys that were just like, they wanted their, 315 on the bench press, and they wanted their, 405 on the squat rack, and they just weren't going to abandon that. That was
Right.
their approach to everybody. Grandma, everybody's going to do it like I do it, and so there was a weeding out period as it relates to, just getting the right culture built around those things. But I was completely bought in, and I wasn't going to abandon that. And Neil and I had conversations about it. He's like, look, he's like, you're going to lose, 60-70% of your people. He's like, if you want to stay this path and you want to get, create a culture around this, you got to realize that most of these people, you're going to lose them, and they might be your good trainers now, but in the long run,
Right.
they're not, they're not going to be good for your program. And I stuck with that, and, probably more so that I didn't know any better, other than to take his advice and to just
do it.
blind trust and do it. And it worked out really well for me. And I kind of maintained that philosophy, throughout the rest of my career. It was kind of like, we're gonna embrace this culture. We're gonna design this play. We're gonna run this play. You either bought in and you're gonna come with us, or you're gonna.
I remember. I was like, I'm on board.
You're gonna find another path. Yeah.
So what I'd like to do is dive in a little bit into those steps. So a lot of what me and Mark talk about is the different levels, and we work typically more of like the entrepreneur side.
Sure.
What I see is you're very entrepreneur. There's entrepreneur traits, but you're working within the business. So, level one, for example, is getting the solopreneur, which in this case is full-time employee, like single, I've got a full roster of clients. I'm doing well. The next level is going to be like, cool, how do I build a team around me? This would be the fitness director role. And then from there, it's terms like, how do I get to the ownership part of business where the business is running itself? And then obviously this is kind of where you're at the executive level. So what would be some of those tips and breakdowns of, and you can extract from your story of when you went from that, I did $19,000 in a year, to the next year, like I went to 95,000. How would you kind of like compact that and break that down? Like what were like the 2 or 3 things that you really leaned into to get that?
Yeah. I mean, it starts with your own education, right? I mean, you're, especially as a trainer, your product is your education. If you can only solve for the problems that you can diagnose, understand, and create solutions for, right? So, and the human body is just highly complex, right? And there's a lot of different, factors that you have to deal with. So the more that you understand about the complexity of, training a person to get to an outcome, whether that's a performance outcome, whether it's a weight loss outcome, or, just body composition, change, the more successful you're going to have. Because it really, as an individual, if you're not delivering results for your clients are going to stay with you. They might like you as an individual. They might enjoy the experience. They might, consider you a friend, but they're not going to continue to pay
Keep
you
paying each
money,
month. Yeah.
if they're not getting their desired results. And
Right.
the only way to get them the results is to understand how to get them the results.
Right.
So you really have to, and this has been something that's been kind of a lifelong endeavor, for me. And I find different avenues that I go down, but I'm, just this morning on the ride into work, I'm listening to different podcasts, as it relates to training or performance or mental coaching or, those things, because all of those things have application in the things that we do, on a daily basis. And and I still look at my job, even as an executive level, as I've got to be the best personal trainer in the business,
Right.
because if I'm not, then I can't. I don't really have anything that I can teach, somebody else. So I'm always trying to stay kind of on the cutting edge of those things and trying to understand, what's the latest information out there, and some of it's garbage. And you got to weed
A
through.
lot of it's garbage.
You got to weed through that and what's based in fact. But once you establish a solid, foundation of things that are rooted in evidence-based, science and truth, then you can quickly kind of disseminate, through those various things, and discover what are the right tools and resources that allow you to be success. And then from there, have a systematic approach, and a comprehensive one at that. You again, you can take somebody into the gym and beat them to death and give them the best workout in the world, but if you're not addressing things, in the other 23 hours of the day and their lifestyle choices and
Right.
especially with their eating habits and their drinking habits and things like that, then you're just not going to be successful. And you have to go into that client relationship with an understanding. And the way that I always, positioned it with my clients is like, look, at the end of the day, you're a walking billboard for my business. If you're not getting the results that you should be getting, then it's going to reflect, poorly on me. So this is my commitment to you that I will get you there, but you've got to do your part as well, because all of my prospective, new clients are the people that are working out next to you, evaluating your progress.
Right.
And so if I had, and there were a number of times where I fired clients because they just weren't compliant to my program, and that was a hard choice, especially early on when you don't have this, long waiting list of people and you don't have a name, reputation and things. But that was a commitment that I had, to, my clients early on is, look, I'm going to give you 100% of me. I need 100% of you back. And we're going to get you to where you want to be. If not, then we're going to have to make a decision that this isn't the right fit for either one of us.
Yeah.
So I love that mentality, because you're asking people to take responsibility for themselves, which, that's rare these days to begin with. But I mean, that's the only way we can elicit true change, is we can't make someone change.
Right.
But we can lead the way, we can guide, we can give them the tools, we can give them the strategies. But I love that. And especially setting the expectation from the beginning of, here's what you can expect from me, and I will uphold my responsibility, but here's what I need from you. I love that.
Yeah.
Yeah. People, when I started teaching like sales training and stuff like that, and I, especially early on in my career when I moved into kind of the district manager role, and I would say things like that in a sales training, my bosses would be like, "Are you out of your mind?"
You're going to fire a paying customer?
Right. That's the dues.
But again, it was a strategy that worked well for me, and it worked well for a lot of people that worked for me.
Well, at the end of the day, fitness isn't about the first sale.
Right.
That's where it starts.
Right.
It's the years to come if you do it right. So if you're bringing in the right people through this process, you don't have to go chase new dues all the time.
Well, that's the downfall of most large companies, especially, and even in the ownership ranks and in general in the industry, they're so fixated on the initial sale, right?
Yeah.
And that's how everything's measured. That's how, success and at every level is, rewarded.
Yeah.
But the reality, especially on the training side, and this is where you oftentimes, have conflict in the corporate structure, is they don't pay attention to or realize what it takes to build the backside, which ultimately becomes 70-80% of your revenue,
Right.
It's
that foundation.
Right.
It's like working your core.
Right.
Yeah.
But there's, even to this day, there's always conflict.
Yeah.
With that. It doesn't get the headline news, but to build something sustainable and, profitable, on that side of the business, it's much more about the retention side than it is the acquisition side.
So if I was to simplify what I pulled from that, you got master your craft, get a system, and set firm expectations and standards with the relationships of your clients. So those seem to be like the building blocks to like, dude, I'm doing pretty good. Like $95,000 in general is pretty damn good, much less in a corporate setting and what you're doing. That's like unheard of. So what was the next level then? So next level was like, cool, now I'm like replicating and I'm dealing with trainers and it's like herding cats. And that probably is when your hair started falling out. At least mine did when I started going through that process. So what were the lessons and stepping stones with that process?
Yeah, there were 2 points there. And, these things have carried me for a long time. One was you had to establish a culture. Which, was challenging, especially when you're coming out of the peer ranks into the manager ranks. And, last week you and I are coworkers. This week I'm your boss. And, so there was that, part initially that was, the challenge. And then, philosophically you have to kind of determine, what do I want this to look like? What do I want it to feel like? What do I want this to stand for? What are the core, tenets that are going to make us different than, anyone else? And it really, what I've really ended up boiling it down to over the years, and this isn't where I started, but this is kind of ultimately where I ended up is run the play. So regardless of whatever it is that we determine is the play, that's going to be the standard in which we operate, and nobody's going to fall outside of the plan. And you probably remember this speech, when I talked to you guys, as a group of fitness managers that I was working with, where I said, look, I'm gonna set the stage like this. We're gonna establish an operating play and a cadence. And if as long as you're running the play the way that the play is designed, regardless of the outcome or the results, you have no concerns about your job security. Because at the end of the day, if you're doing what I'm asking you to do, and you're doing it to the best of your ability, then I own the outcome of that. But if you make the decision that you're going to go outside the lines and you're going to run your own play or your own variation of the play, then I can no longer be responsible for the outcome of the result. So if the outcome of the result's not there, then you're going to have to own the outcome of the result of that. And so, while I wouldn't necessarily say that there was an initial start there as it relates to that being the kind of the culture that I was looking for, I'd say it quickly migrated to something like that. Because again, I was married to Apex and NASM, and that became kind of my operating structure. And so you were going to use that program. You were going to follow these education, tenets. You were going to train, clients using the OPT model. You were going, everybody was going to get a meal plan, and you were going to run our play, or you needed to find somewhere else to work. And then outside of that, it's identifying and developing, the right people for your culture. And so there's always been really, there's three kind of core things that I look for in an individual, and it really doesn't have anything to do with their talent or their background or their skill set or anything, because from my vantage point, and I've talked about this a lot before in the past, is like, I'm looking for the right hardware, and I can download the software. Like, I can teach you all the things that I need you to do to be successful, but I need you to have the right hardware, if you know what I mean. And so the three things that I'm looking for, in an individual is, especially in this business, one, are they competitive? This business is a competitive business. You've got to have a competitive drive to be successful in this business. There's something that's got to be driving you to get up and work go to work at 5 o'clock in the morning every day and stay till 9 o'clock at night. I mean, you've got to have a passion for what it is that you do. The second thing is that you have to be adaptable, and circumstances change. You're especially as a trainer, you're going to go from hot to cold as far as your client loads, and there's going to be shifts in the seasons, and there's going to be new things that are introduced and things that are taken away, and if you can't adapt to those circumstances and kind of continue to run with the flow, it's going to be very, very challenging for you to sustain anything long term in the business. And then the third thing that I always looked for was leadership qualities. Does this person have the potential of becoming a leader? And why that was important to me, and still is important to me to this day, all the way down to the personal trainer level, is because trainers are leaders. If you think about how it is that they work with their clients, they're generally having to take control of a situation over somebody that has maybe more of a social stature than they do. They're certainly, higher income earners, and in most cases they're older, wiser, more respected in their professions, oftentimes. And you have to come into those circumstances and you have to be the subject matter expert. You have to take control of that situation. You have to guide that person to an outcome or result. You have to sometimes be the disciplinarian. Sometimes you have to provide, tough love in those circumstances. And so if you don't display those leadership qualities, you're going to be very, very challenged even at the base level of the profession. And then if you learn to work on those qualities, then it's going to be a natural course of development that I can work you into a management role, because management is not the same as leadership. Right. Management is I can keep up with these tasks. I can make sure
systems
that things are, and those are taught behaviors, right? Leadership is more, you've got to possess some internal strengths and some just, some things, some intangibles that are not, oftentimes teachable. And unfortunately, we oftentimes choose our managers or our leaders from the wrong pool, right? We take the highest performer and just assume that, that they're going to be able to teach others to do what they did, when oftentimes that's, completely based on, just innate talents that they have that are, their abilities that aren't transferable, and they end up blowing up, in a leadership role, because they either trying to do everything for everybody, or they get to the, well, I've made it place and I don't have to work anymore and everybody else has to do, and so on and so forth. So those, I would say, in that transition, even up into, the executive ranks, that's what, anytime that I've come into a new situation, those are the things that I establish first. Like, so we're going to establish a play. Everybody's going to get on the same page. We're going to run the play this way. Either you're on board with that or you're not on board with that. And then what are we looking for as it relates to our current and future leaders, in the program?
Yeah, and I know there's different mindsets with the whole either get on board or you get off. The way I've always looked at it is, if you have someone on your team that's not bought in, you're not doing them any service by having them there.
Right.
That means that, hey, that could be holding them back from the thing that they're supposed to be doing.
Exactly right.
And then same thing with your talent. There could be someone who's on the outside, like that's a perfect fit for you.
Right.
So it's not like a get out, I don't want you. I'm actually trying to help you get on the right seat for where you need to be.
Yeah. So it's interesting. There. I look at it as binary. You're either going to find the place that you like and you're completely bought in and you couldn't be happier, or it should be something that you can immediately identify that is nothing that I want to be a part of. The myth that every place should be a great place to work for everybody, that this is for everyone, is just that. It's a myth. It doesn't exist. And no matter who promotes it or that ideal, nobody's ever going to accomplish it, because everybody's got their own little ideas about how things should be. And when you open that up to interpretation and just letting things go whatever direction, then all you end up with in the middle is chaos.
Yeah.
So either you're very, very clear and direct about who you are and what you stand for, and what you're going to tolerate and so on and so forth, or you're just opening yourself up to chaos.
Yeah, I love how you talk about the tenets. Me and Mark call them core values. Mark can expound on this, but we go really in depth with this with our clients and who we work with, because, when you're out there running your own business, it's kind of like being a sailor lost at sea sometimes. It's like, it's really easy to get lost, and, you got the Leviathan coming up over here and you got the waves crashing down on you. But if you have those core values, they work as your compass.
Right.
And if you run every decision that you want to make through that filter and go, does this align or does this not align? It makes the answer really simple for you to take action on.
Yeah,
and it makes it easy for your people too, because as you develop managers, the answer to the question is always, are they running the play? For me, it's that simple. So you can go and review, client folders of a trainer, and how they're managing their clients, and A, are they running the play, or B, are they not?
Right.
It's that simple. You can evaluate their interaction in a sales presentation, and A, are they running the play, or B, are they not?
Right.
And so it gives you that's your guidepost. It tells you what I need to do. Either I need to address that behavior, or I've addressed it numerous times and it's not changing, and now I need to take a different course of action.
Well, and in any smart coach and a smart person in general knows success leaves clues, and we talk about this all the time. So, if someone comes into your ecosystem and you have a system that works and that it's proven to work, and you got a whole staff of people that you're like, all those people are successful because they run this play, then like you said, you either run it or you don't, and if you don't, you're out.
Yeah, long term it becomes self-managing, right? Because once you get enough people bought into what it is that you're doing, then the culture takes a life of its own, and then it starts to become self-regulating, where the people that come in on the outside or on the outskirts that try to do it their own way, they get warned. Like, hey, dude, that ain't gonna fly here. Like, hey, it may have worked. So and so, you may have had influence, you may have made changes, but here it is not going to work.
Yeah.
So you need it, and so before me or the next layer down has to manage them, they're being told by their peers, dude, cut it out. Got to get in line with this stuff if you want a future here.
And that's a damn good feeling when you've built that culture and you're like, I'm such a proud dad right now. Like, the kids are managing themselves, and I'm not having to go in there and be the enforcer on everything. And I've seen you build that multiple times, so that's fantastic.
Yeah, and it's simplistic in its approach, and the best things are, the more complicated and the more layers that you add to it, the more difficult it becomes. And I always, again, when we talk about core values and mission statements and things like that with companies, I've worked for more than a half a dozen fitness companies. I couldn't recite to you any of their core values or mission statements, because they were just signs on a wall, But, to your point, I've gone out and I've, been at conferences where I've met fitness leaders for the first time that had, crossed paths with somebody else that I'd worked with. And then I find out that they've, employed the coaching cycle or their service cycle and to the core of their business. It's like that has a lasting legacy and an impression. It's a simple system, and process.
I still teach that.
Right.
And I go, a guy a lot smarter than me came up with this. I'm just going to show you how he did it.
And, so that's where I feel like, you're, when you boil it down to, hey, we're going to design and implement and run a play. And that's that very system, the coaching cycle service. I've seen multiple iterations of that, in varying circumstances. But at its core, it's a simplistic approach that designed or that outlines specifically for whoever's implementing it what their role and responsibilities are within that, and so it resonates. Versus the wordy mission statement of we're going to do this and that and the other, and
it's the same everywhere you go.
Right. And
what's your vision statement? What's your mission statement?
Right. Well, let me go get that card real quick. And let me tell you, versus something that lives on people's hearts.
It's awesome. Well, as we start to land this plane, there's one more thing that I want to ask, and then we're going to do some fun questions at the end. I'm going to let Mark does such a great job with the questions, so I'm going to pass it to him. Tell us a little bit about what you currently have going on with Fitness Connection, your role as the vice president of fitness there, and then obviously how you are navigating these awkward waters we're in 2021.
Yeah, it's a good question. It's an interesting one because we're experimenting on something that's really, really different, in the business. And so, so yes, I manage, fitness as a whole of the business. So that includes anything personal training, small groups and group acts. But I also manage learning and development, for the whole of the company. And so coming out of COVID, our executive leadership team made the decision. I think this is partially, due to the economics of it, and partially due to, hey, just want to, you want to try and see if we can do something, different here. Where we went from the more traditional approach of, siloed management of ops, sales, and fitness, and we've, gone to a generalist approach, and instead of the what other companies have done in the past in this approach is like, well, okay, we're just going to narrow that down. We're going to take the fitness manager and the ops manager, and we're going to make them kind of assistant managers, and still call them that. And we're going to have a general manager and not a sales manager, and, so on and so forth. And it just still becomes a different iteration of the siloed approach, just maybe not at the above club level and things like that. So within our structure, regardless of what everybody comes in on a singular path. So we're not hiring trainers, we're not hiring front desk people, we're not hiring salespeople, we're hiring fitness people. And you're going to learn all three of those jobs, coming into the business. And that's going to take you up a leveling path. And so there's multiple levels that you achieve up through 1 through 4. And then at level 4, you'll get the opportunity to choose, well, do I want to go the path of management and go through, an assistant club manager to a club manager role, or do I want to just break off and just be a full-time, personal trainer? So it does a couple of things for us. One, it gives, kind of mastery of the whole holistic approach to the business. And then 2, where I find it's really helping us is, bringing on new trainers is always a challenging thing because you can't give them enough business to survive oftentimes. So if you can't get them across that 30, 60-day threshold, they're going to fall off, or they're going to have 6 other jobs, or living with mom or something. So here we can give them, 20, 30 hours a week of, $12, $15 an hour, to learn these other functions of the business while we're giving them the tools and resources necessarily to develop, as a trainer.
Yeah.
And so, it's a different approach. It's still very much in its infancy, but it's a new challenge, for us. And I've been responsible for kind of developing all of the education, onboarding, content, and developing an LMS around that, and putting together a facilitation team that does all the the various levels of training and stuff. So I've been right in the middle of that the whole time. So it's an interesting approach from a corporate dynamic. Nobody's doing anything like it anywhere. And so to be candid, economically it works out better for us as an organization, because instead of having to hire, and recruit from all these various positions.
Just get one pool, come into the funnel, would shake them out.
Right.
Who's going where?
That's right. And so it's radically reduced our turnover.
I would imagine.
Oh, I'm sure.
Yeah, but like 100+%, difference between pre and post, COVID. It's allowed us to pay a much healthier starting wage.
Yeah, 15 versus 725 or whatever minimum
Draw.
is now. Right? You owe me money.
Right. And it's and it builds a pipeline, for those, because and so one of the things that's shown itself as we condensed all the previous field into these singular roles, shockingly enough, all the fitness guys are just killing it, right, in all facets of the business. They're, you take 1 through 7, of our top, finishers in the company. Every month, guarantee there's 5 of them that are former FMs, former district fitness managers that are 200+% a goal and so on. So there's a complexity to that side of the business that I don't think the other sides of the business ever understood or respected. Yeah. And now they're having to learn that, which is,
well, it gets rid of that's not my job.
Right.
Everything's our job.
Right.
When it comes to the club.
when before, they're great closers, they're great salespeople, and they move up the ranks, and especially when they're selling $10 memberships. I mean, that you're not even a salesperson,
Right? You just sign
you're just
here.
an order taker. And,
Yeah.
and it's interesting. So we've come up, we're much smarter than we've been in the past, right? We track all of our metrics now, and whereas before, the myth was, we're driving 60-70% of the business through the door through buddy referrals and this, that, and the other. Well, it's more like 4%. Marketing's been pretty much driving all the business through the door your entire career.
Yeah.
And so we're understanding more because we have better analytics and smarter people looking at those those things now. So
I love it, man. That's now I get to hear the next thing that you're pioneering, which is really cool. So thank you for sharing that, man. So
it's an interesting experiment, for sure.
Sweet. Mark, rapid fire questions.
Yeah. First of all, thank you.
Oh,
you're just a freaking wealth of knowledge. And again, you do something for this long and you kind of get good at it, hopefully.
See why I love this guy?
We're going to have to bring him in on Fit Pro Collective and have him talk to our coaches and smack him around a little bit.
Yeah.
So a couple questions to end this with. These have nothing to do with anything.
Okay.
Your favorite sitcom of all time?
Sitcom of all time, probably Seinfeld. Go with a classic.
It's I was like, classic. Yeah. Can't go wrong, man.
Can't go wrong with that one.
It was, and I didn't even like it until it was started hitting syndication, like reruns and stuff. I just wasn't a big TV watcher, and this was kind of when I was finishing high school and first in college, and it wasn't really until I got less busy and started watching TV that now I can tell you every episode. still watch the reruns.
All right, who has the best French fries?
Best French fries. As much as I don't like any of their other food, McDonald's. I now you couldn't pay me to eat one of their fake hamburgers.
Oh yeah.
But they've got they
got the fries.
They do breakfast right.
I'll take a McGriddle any day.
Yeah, man.
All right, and last question: if you had a billboard that you could put a message on for everyone to see, what would be on the billboard?
Gosh, I'd have to think about it, but it'd be something with, something regarding truth, because there's we live in a world that's so absent of truth. And I wouldn't know exactly, off the top of my head how to phrase that or what what exactly that would look like. But, that's, to me, my pursuit through my career has been kind of a pursuit of truth. I want to understand how the body works. I want to understand how to lead people the best. I want to, the right answers to the questions. And to me, it just, this, the age that we live in, everything is a spin job. Everything is a narrative. Everything is, is just there's such an absence of truth in society today. Social media, all that is just, it is designed to indoctrinate you, into a culture, into a belief that is, and I would challenge, everyone out there to investigate for yourself and look for the truth in everything that you've decided you believe on.
Absolutely.
Amen to that.
Amen. And a woman.
And a a person. Are you assuming genders, Jonathan?
Don't get me down there, man.
We'll do this again, and we'll just talk tinfoil hat stuff and conspiracy theories.
Yeah.
I'm your guy.
Well, again, Barry, thank you so much for coming in here, sharing your knowledge with us. If you're listening to this, just gold nuggets dropped all over the place. Whether you're on your own, whether you're building a team, whether you're in fitness or any other business, I think so much of what you talked about is just foundational business material. And, taken from a guy that has over 2 decades experience mastering his craft and continuing to grow. And I can't state how important that is to never stop learning, to always know that there's more. And I say this all the time, like the more we know we don't know.
Yes.
And there's always room for growth.
Yeah. And I'll just reiterate that point. The more that the more that I think that I know, I'll get introduced to information and just be like, God, like just totally blew my whole thought process around how that worked and what it was and what was important and what I deemed to be the right answer. So yeah, it's a lifelong pursuit, for sure.
I love it. So once again, if you are listening, please like, subscribe, give us the review. What else? Hashtag this thing. Put it on the gram, put it on the Facebook, screenshot it, send it to us. I don't know. Just do all the things. And Jonathan, let's finish this off, buddy.
And be like Barry Smith. Go get what you're worth, baby. Yeah. Damn good show.
Damn good.